Uh-huh. Okay, I think I can make that work. All right. Hey guys, how you doing? Sorry, I'm just touching up the Yonko wanted posters a little bit here to make them more accurate. These are like fan-made ones, obviously, and they were made like years ago, well before we got the Yonko bounties. And Shanks's previous one was 700 million, which I know doesn't sound like a lot right now, but when this poster was probably made, like probably like close to maybe like 10 years ago or something, I mean, come on now, 700 million, that would have been like, whoa, that's crazy, right? Now it's just like pair of sparrows bounty, so like who cares. But yeah, I had to add the 4 here. I had to change that 7 into a 0, so a lot easier said than done. And thankfully I could turn that 0 into an 8 and then that into 9 there. So that's Shanks's bounty. Shanks's bounty, Shiyanku. Shanks. Way to go, Oda. And then we have Whitebeard's, of course. Now, Whitebeard's I love because his previous bounty on here was just question mark 100 million. So at least they were trying to, like, cover their bases with that. Like, well, we don't know what it's going to be, but at least it's going to be in the 100 million range. And they still got it wrong, which makes it even funnier. So it's 5,046,000,000 once again. Thank God for zeros being able to turn into 6s and 9s easier. And for Whitebeard, of course, we have 4 and 6. Shiro. Whitebeard. Yep. I like to think that not just Oda, I like to think there's a person in the Marines whose job it is to come up with punny bounties for these great pirates. Like, that is the one way well, the Marines can't beat them one-on-one, but what we can do is get, like, a punny victory over them. Ha, Shanks, we're gonna decide your bounty, and we're gonna put your name in the bounty. That means the Marines win. Alright, so anyway, the Yonko, you know, they come in all shapes and sizes, really. You got medium, you got large, you got extra large, and then you got giga. So, I was doing a live stream yesterday, and I got a super chat from a fan by the name of Steelers Are Great, which, you know, I live in Western PA, so yes, I agree with that. The Steelers are great, you know? Used to have the most Super Bowl victories, and then the Patriots... Okay, anyway. The comment was basically, hey, Matt, you haven't done a video on Yonko territories yet. And I was like, you're right, I haven't done a video about Yonko territories yet, and it's an interesting topic, so we're gonna do that today. Also, it gives me a prime opportunity to bring up something involving Shanks that a lot of people are really pumped for, at least they're hoping that this is going to happen, and that's that Shanks has a connection to Elbaf, so I was looking into that a little bit there to see where that connection comes from, because, like, surface level, if you just look at it, like, Shanks has never referenced Elbaf himself, he's never, like, directly talked to Mihawk. He'd be like, alright, Mihawk, you have fun being an enemy of the world government again. I'm going back to my home base on Elbaf! Okay, Mihawk? My home base! Elbaf! Land of Giants! I will be going there now. Are you drunk again? I am extraordinarily hawk me. Yes, okay. So anyway, it gives us opportunities to talk about that, so we'll do that. But first, let's talk about some of the Yonko territories that we're already very well acquainted with. So let's start off with Big Mom, because Big Mom I felt like I've talked the most about. So let's just get her out of the way first, okay? I've done 2 whole videos on the entirety of Totland, as well as a video just on Whole Cake Island, which is her main base of operation in Totland. See, the thing about being an emperor is that you gotta have, like, an empire. I mean, isn't that the whole point of the word emperor? You rule over an empire, right? Yeah, that's how it goes. You know, speaking of, Luffy is referred to as the 5th emperor, and he doesn't really have an empire going on, but he does have a few islands that are under his protection, like Fishman Island, for example. Ace is a flame emperor, so therefore he rules over flames, and Boa is a bay emperor, because she is bay. So this is how this works, right? Now, a lot of discussions have been talked about, like, what makes an emperor? You know, when will Luffy truly be considered an emperor by the masses? And, you know, a lot of things consider that, like, strength and just, like, the terror they inspire in the world, the amount of, like, whatever bounty the government decides to put on them is one thing. But, yeah, definitely ruling over a bunch of different islands as your own territory is certainly part of this. Also, keep in mind, that's the whole thing with the New World. The New World is, like, the most untamed sea in the world. I mean, yeah, the Grand Line altogether is kind of crazy, but Paradise is sort of taken over by the Marines. Of course, the Marines have a lot more presence in Paradise than in the New World. The New World is like that last bastion that the world government is trying to take complete control of, and they're having a hard time of it because of the Yonko existence, okay? The Yonko are more than just really, really strong pirates. They are an entire, like, global force, you know, one of the three great powers of the entire world, okay? So, you got all of them pretty much having a main base of operation where you really don't screw with, and then you have a bunch of islands that bear their Jolly Roger as, like, this is the marked territory of Shanks, this is the marked territory of Kaido. You know, you step on this island, yeah, you can hang out here and you can do stuff, but you start to screw with the people on this island, or if you start to pillage this island, or if you try to claim it for yourself, you're gonna have some really tough people to answer to there, okay? So, in the case with Big Mom, though, it's very clear she has at least the largest home base. Totland is consisting of, like, 35 islands, you know, including Whole Cake Island itself, which is pretty large. Her territory is massive. It was also stated that Big Mom's, like, information network is the best in the entire world. Big Mom is somebody certainly that is very proactive, kind of, in that approach to, like, I want to get my hands on those road poneglyphs. I'm going to, spite Roger. Roger took my one road poneglyph away from me that one time, and he managed to sneak off and become freaking Pirate King. You know, I'm gonna become Pirate King. You know, it's not really a gender-specific term. It's just anybody that, you know, finds the One Piece becomes the Pirate King, you know, in that regard there. So she has a vast information network out there to pretty much get hands on anything rare, not just poneglyphs, but also I would assume devil fruits. That's probably why she can get her hands on all those really, like, food-related fruits. You ever figure that? Because it's like, okay, it's the Big Mom pirates, and they all have food-related and candy-themed devil fruits, for the most part. You'd figure, like, she has to actively be out there looking for that. Like, anybody that finds a food-themed devil fruit, you know, and take it, because we're gonna need, he's like, we found the raisin fruit, Big Mom. I'm like, oh, okay, well, and then give it to Raisin, because he needs it, you know, that's how that works there. But like I said, I went into great detail with Totland itself, so I don't feel like just, you know, trudging up, you know, stuff I've already mentioned before. But let's talk about Fishman Island a little bit, because Whitebeard used to be in control of Fishman Island, and then he died, and then obviously all his territories went away. They actually got kind of absorbed up by Blackbeard. We'll get to him in a minute. But after Fishman Island, you know, was no longer under Whitebeard's control, Big Mom, like, immediately took that as an opportunity, and she swooped in before even Blackbeard could get involved. If Big Mom did not get involved when she did, it's very likely that Blackbeard might have tried to make that his territory, and that would have made the whole arc there a lot more different, I think. So Big Mom is like, yeah, sure, I'll lend your protection to Fishman Island if you provide me with some delicious Fishman and merfolk-themed sweets. Keep in mind, a lot of the Yonko, they don't really like, I mean, all of the Yonko don't really like the world government, you know, they, like, there's, like, Blackbeard that wants to, like, destroy it. Shanks doesn't like it either, but he had still, like, met with the Gorosei, so there's a certain level of trust there. I feel like, you know, Kaido could not get an audience with the Gorosei. I just feel like they wouldn't allow it. Shanks could get an audience with them. It's very unusual, but he could still do it. So, you know, the whole thing with the world government is that they do the heavenly tribute for the Tenryubito. You have to pay money or resources or crops or whatever your country could muster, a big percentage of that, so that the world government lends them their protection. So I could see some of the Yonko being like, we don't want to be like the world government, we don't want to do that same thing. Like, I don't think Whitebeard ever really asked for a tax or something whenever he was protecting Fishman Island. In fact, Papagoo even said, you know, yeah, when Whitebeard was calling the shots and he ruled the island, he never asked anything from us, really. Probably the most thing that Whitebeard ever asked is, like, a place to chill out every once in a while and maybe drink with Neptune. I was like, Neptune, do you have some good sake? Yeah, Whitebeard, right here. Okay, glug glug. Well, nice meeting you. Yeah, I'll get back to it. That's pretty much probably all Whitebeard asked of. I can't really see Shanks doing much of anything either. I can't really see Shanks asking for, like, you know, you must pay me and half of the rare minerals that you mine from this island, and then I will give you your protection, you know, like, that doesn't really make any sense for Shanks. Big Mom, of course, she has a giant bottomless stomach, so she, of course, asked for sweets in return. There was also an island, remember the first time we got to see Big Mom, you know, and, like, not in, like, full view, it was in silhouette. But when Bobbin arrived and he's like, oh, the sweets from Fishman Island are going to be a little late. Should I burn it down? It was also mentioned that there was an island that was really good at baked goods, and they didn't pay their toll. They didn't pay their bread toll for that month, the bread tax. So Big Mom's like, well, it sucks, but burn it down. So you can't even use the food thing against her. You can't even say, is like, hey, Big Mom, if you burn this island down, you're not going to get any more of that delicious bread that we bake. Well, burn it down. If I'm not going to get it either way, then just burn it down, right? So she doesn't like to do it, but she's like, you gotta deliver that, like, hey, we gotta let people know that you don't cross me. And even with Fishman Island, she was kind of on the cusp there, and then Luffy got into an argument with her, and there was kind of like and at the end of the day, they gave the treasure over to Tamago and Peckham, so that sort of made it even why Big Mom did not just come and destroy all of Fishman Island, but that's like a very special circumstance there that happened. There were also those islands that Big Mom went after when they were making the cake, the ingredients for the cake. So there was an island that, like, Randolph went to that had, like, a bunch of fruit. And then there was the egg island, and then there was, like, the flour island where the flour was made. I don't think those were islands that were under her control because it really showed that they had to use force in order to get those things. Like, they showed up and just beat the crap out of everybody on the island and then took the eggs and then took the flour and took the fruit. If it was one of Big Mom's territories, you wouldn't have to do that. You would just have to be like, hey, Mama wants her eggs for the cake, and then you give me the eggs, and then that's how it goes. So those probably weren't part of her territory, but Totland is massive. I mean, just think of how long it took for the Thousand Sunny to go from the outskirts of her territory to Whole Cake Island, and then all the way back out again. Like, that whole escape from Totland was not an easy thing. It wasn't just like, hop on the Thousand Sunny, do a coup-de burst, and we're out of her territory in a couple of minutes. No, this was like a 12-plus hour journey, including a coup-de burst, which already takes like a kilometer out of the equation to get out of her territory. It's freaking massive. Okay, so that's Big Mom. Moving on to Kaido. Kaido's territory is a lot more limited by that regard, and also keep in mind that there's probably a bunch more islands that these Yonko control that we just haven't seen in the story, because so far we've only gotten 2 from Kaido. We know Hachinosu Island for Blackbeard, and we know a lot of other Whitebeards of his islands got taken over by Blackbeard, Totland, and then Fishman Island by Big Mom, although Fishman Island's currently under control by Luffy. And then with Shanks, we only have 1. That's right, we only have 1 confirmed island for Shanks. So there's a lot of other islands out there, just haven't been confirmed yet. But yeah, Kaido, of course, rules over Wano, as well as Onigashima, which is a separate island, but still part of, like, the Wano territory. Yes, Orochi technically is the one that rules over Wano, but let's be straight up here. Who's the one that's actually the Dragon Duck God? Is it Orochi? No, he's a Yamato no Orochi, but he's just a slithering little lizard compared to Kaido. Anytime that, Kaido feels that Orochi is going out of hand, or he's doing stuff that are not, like Orochi really genuinely wants to run Wano into the ground. Like, he's even come out and said that. Well, what happens when Orochi finally loses it at the Fire Festival, and he's just like, I'm tired of everything, destroy all of Wano, everything, every town, every factory, every man, woman, and child, I want it all burned to the ground immediately! Do you think Kaido's gonna go with that? Do you think Kaido's just gonna be like, look, well, you heard the man. No, Kaido's gonna be like, yeah, well, it's been fun. Boom! And just smash him. Because everybody takes orders from that. It's like, alright, you all take orders from me from now on. I'd be like, yeah, okay, I mean, we were kind of already, but alright, yeah, sure. So, Kaido pretty much rules over Wano. The way he took over Wano was more of like a mutual deal between Orochi and him, and I'm sure the deal is like really complicated, maybe they had to sign a contract or whatever, but at the end of the day, Kaido's the dragon. He can do whatever he wants, right? The only other island we know that Kaido controls is the, still don't know the name for it. It's the island it's a winter island. It's got like a metal mountain in the background that's got like stripes on it, which looks really cool. At first I thought it was like a candy cane mountain in the manga, and then clearly later on it's clearly metal. And so that's where Scotch was, the cyborg. That's where Drake arrived, before the time skip. And there was a town there, and, Drake is like, oh, who owns this island? And Scotch is like, this is Kaido's turf, you better not screw around here. And Drake is like, oh, so if I beat you up, Kaido will notice. And, Scotch is just like, yep, so don't screw, oh, that works good for me then. And then he goes all Allosaurus and he attacks Scotch, which was most likely part of Drake's plan at that point. Like, beat the crap out of one of Kaido's servants, get Kaido's attention, let him know that I am a badass Allosaur, and then join his crew. I just thought of something, because it seems very... Anybody else think it was really convenient that Drake had the Allosaur fruit and he just happened to join Kaido's crew? I know he did it for a reason. He was a member of Sword. What if the Marines found the ancient zone, the Ryuryunomi model Allosaur, and they gave it to Drake specifically so he could get the dinosaur power because they knew Kaido has a shit ton of dinosaurs on his crew? Like, Sengoku's like, ex-Drake, we have a special assignment for you. You're going to defect from the Marines. It's going to be a big show. Everyone's going to think you're a traitor. You're going to become a pirate. You're going to rise through the ranks, and you're going to eventually earn the trust of the Yonko Kaido. Take this ancient zone. It'll turn you into a dinosaur. Dope. And then... that's dope, Sengoku. Sweet. I know you have taste. But whatever, okay. And now you can begin the... That actually makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Because the Marines and the world government... Well, the world government might not be part of Sword, but the Marines, like maybe Sengoku Garp, would definitely be aware of it. So maybe that's the reason there. But yeah, those are the only territories we know about Kaido. And Kaido has a lot of influence in the underground, though. So while he doesn't, directly control Punk Hazard or Dressrosa, his men, like Doflamingo, who worked directly under Kaido and was the Joker in his, not a member of his crew, but he had a card epithet, his influence spreads far and wide. So I don't think, when Luffy and the gang did all that crap on Punk Hazard, you didn't see Kaido being like, I'm going over to Punk Hazard to kick their ass, and when Luffy defeated Doflamingo, it wasn't like Kaido's like, I'm gonna go over to Dressrosa and kick their ass, nothing like that. So it's influenced through the underworld and through the all the dealings that Kaido does. But he himself, he might just be maybe lazy or just a little bit of a homebody. Maybe he doesn't like to leave Onigashima. He just likes the vibe there. But yeah, his influence does spread far and wide throughout the seas. He just doesn't get directly involved unless you actually knock on his front door, which is what the Straw Hats and the entire rebellion are quite literally about to do in the next chapter. So, yeah, that's when Kaido gets involved there. But yeah, Wano and then the Metal Mountain Candy Cane place. Then we get Blackbeard. Okay, now Blackbeard, the only island we know he controls right now is the Hachinosu, or the Beehive Island, or Full-of-Lit Island, as the Viz translation says. It's the pirate island, of course. It's the place where the Rocks crew formed all those decades ago with Whitebeard and Big Mom and Kaido, and let's say it with me now, ladies and gentlemen, that's right, Shiki. Silver Axe was there, and Wang Zhi! Can't forget about Wang Zhi. They were all there, and Kaido was an apprentice pirate at that point, and then they decided to go out to the sea with Rocks and take over the world. Quite literally, Rocks wanted to be king of the world. What does that exactly imply? Did he want to destroy the world government and sit on the empty throne? Who knows? But that's what Rocks wanted to do. Something interesting, kids. Blackbeard took over this island at some point over the time skip, after he became a Yonko, after the whole thing with, Marineford. But it was also stated that Blackbeard took over a lot of islands that Whitebeard used to control. What if, because we never really found out what Whitebeard's home base of operations was, if he ever even had one. Big Mom had Totland, Kaido has Wano, or Onigashima more specifically. We don't know Shanks' either, but it would be a little weird if Whitebeard didn't have a home base where he liked to spend most of his time. I guess you could say Sphinx Island, but that probably isn't accurate, because Sphinx is Whitebeard's home island. It's the place where he grew up. He didn't want that place to be touched by pirates, so he sent money back there so they could survive without the heavenly tribute, but it's not a place I could see Whitebeard hanging out all the time because he doesn't want to draw attention to that place. So what if the previous home base of Whitebeard was the Hachinosu Island? What if after Rocks died and after the island was maybe abandoned when Whitebeard started to build up his own crew, what if he started making Hachinosu his home base? And then Whitebeard died, and then Blackbeard took it over. because Blackbeard obviously would know about it because he used to be on Whitebeard's crew. Just an idea, just a theory. Every time we usually see Whitebeard hanging out, it's usually just on the Moby Dick, so maybe he didn't have a home base, but he did have a lot of islands that he ruled over as a very kind of benevolent leader. Everyone really liked him, you know, he didn't ask for much, and if anybody messed with the islands, he would be there lickety-split to beat the crap, to lay down the Bicento on whoever would dare to trespass. So, just an idea there. But yeah, aside from Hachinosu, we don't know any other islands that Blackbeard controls. We know that they attacked Baltigo, the previous island of the Revolutionary Army, but then they moved out to the Kamabaka Kingdom on Momoiro Island. So it's possible that it might not be much anymore, but it used to be the home base of the Revolutionary Army, so it's obviously an island that's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, although I guess not anymore, because since Blackbeard attacked it, the government knows where it's at now. It was in the paper and everything. They know where it's at. So maybe Blackbeard took over Baltigo, or maybe the world government just, you know, swept over it, combed over the whole place to find out what was going on there. But that island was attacked by Blackbeard. There was a few other islands we knew about Whitebeard, and I guess I'll just bring that up now. Really, there's not many of them. There was Fishman Island, which is now under the control of the Luffy, or... do you want to say it's under the control of the Straw Hats, or do you want to say it's still under the control of Big Mom? I don't know. Like, if I was a citizen, if I was like the minister of the left or the minister of the right living in Fishman Island, and Luffy's like, I'm going to protect this island from now on, they'd be like, okay, cool. Still make sure we send shipments to Big Mom. I don't want anything to be, you know, like, oh, he's a strong pirate, but I just want to be safe. You would still, like, I think they should still be sending shipments just to be absolutely certain, you know, like, because you never know. But then the whole thing with Jinbei happened, so I really don't know what the situation with Fishman Island is right now. If they trust Luffy enough to be like, screw you, Big Mom, we're behind Straw Hat now. I mean, are they confident enough to make that claim? I don't know. Food Vaulton was another place that Whitebeard controlled. This was a place that was ransacked by Brownbeard immediately after Whitebeard's death. And then Basil Hawkins attacked Blackbeard, defeated him, but Basil Hawkins is now on Wano, so I doubt that he controls Food Vaulton anymore, so Blackbeard might have just taken over Food Vaulton. Food Vaulton is an island. It's kind of like a really steep, like, cliffs, and, like, you sail inside of a bay, and then, like, it's surrounded by rocks, and then there's, like, the island in the center. That was Food Vaulton. And then Sphinx Island, which we already talked about. We already saw that. Marco is currently living there. Nobody really knows about the place except for the Whitebeard crew. Edward Weevil might be targeting it at some point, but Blackbeard doesn't know about it yet. Or, well, wait, whoa, shit. Blackbeard should know about Sphinx, shouldn't he? I mean, he was on Whitebeard's crew for, like, decades. Interesting. Maybe just, well, I was gonna say maybe Blackbeard doesn't care, but wasn't it stated that Whitebeard's body is buried there? So that might tie back into the Moria thing. I did throw out the idea that I guess now that Moria joined Blackbeard's crew, he might know, like, oh, okay, now we go to Sphinx Island. Now we get his corpse. Now we get zombie Whitebeard. Maybe, who knows? But yeah, that's all we got from Blackbeard. So yeah, that's pretty much everybody there. Let's move on to Shanks now. Okay, so first off, there's a few islands we see Shanks just hanging out. Fuchsia Village was definitely, it's not an island, that's a village. It was in the Goa Kingdom on Dawn Island, but, you know, clearly he didn't control that town. It was just a place he was hanging out and, you know, maybe getting to know Makino a little bit, because, you know, there's been theories about that for, like, ever since, like, Chapter 1 of One Piece. Like, was Shanks and Makino, like, were they a thing, you know? Probably, I don't know. Anyway, but we see other islands. We see the Jungle Island that Shanks was on when Luffy got his first bounty, and then Mihawk arrived at that island, and they were getting drunk, and they were like, hey, everybody, look, Luffy's got a bounty, 30 million, let's drink, we're already drunk, well, let's get double drunk, come on, Mihawk, you know, and then later, actually, well, not later, this was actually during a flashback with Ace. Ace eventually met Shanks during his own journeys when he was just a member of the Spade Pirates, and it was on a winter island. It was in like an icy cave where for some reason the red-haired pirates were just hanging out drinking, of course. It's never, you can always have a party with the red-hair crew. It doesn't matter where. Literally doesn't matter. Like in the middle of a scorching desert, in the middle of the Antarctic, doesn't matter. Shanks can have a party anywhere he wants. But in fact, the meeting between Ace and Shanks at that particular instant on that winter island was so earth-shattering, Shanks momentarily regrew his arm before losing it again right after Ace left. Or it could have just been an animation mistake. Yeah, let's go with that. But it is kind of funny to point out, right? So yeah, that's where Ace met Shanks. But there's really no guarantee that that Jungle Island was Shanks' territory, or that Winter Island was something that Shanks owned. Could have just been some random islands that they docked the Red Force at, they got drunk, and then they left. All of those islands we've seen, by the way, are uninhabited. So maybe they were looking deliberately for an island that was uninhabited, that the Marines aren't going to be sniffing around, and he's just going to, like, have a party and then they leave. You know, the only island that we know for certain that Shanks controls, that we've actually seen his banner, his Jolly Roger flying over, was the island, we don't even know its name, so... But the island that Bartolomeo arrived at with his crew and was like trying to peddle all the Straw Hat merch. It's just like, hello there, ladies and gentlemen of this island. Have you heard the majesty, the greatness that is the savior Luffy-senpai? Well, we are the official Luffy-senpai Church of Latter-day Straw Hats, and we're here to deliver to you all these commemorative Straw Hat buttons and magnets. You know, like, would you like a giant, pennant of the Straw Hat logo? Of course, that's what they do. And the citizens were like, no, thank you. We're actually protected by red hair Shanks here, and the thing that Bartolomeo and Gambina immediately did was burn down the flag. So, yeah, I think they might have to answer some questions to that. Now, maybe if Shanks arrives and they're like, all right, boys, looks like we got some troublemakers. Maybe Bartolomeo might be like, but I'm friends with Luffy, and like, uh-huh, and then... If Bartolomeo can convince Shanks that he really is his ally, and he really did meet Luffy, and he really hung out with him and had the whole adventure on, Dressrosa, and he's actually a member of the Grand Fleet, if Bartolomeo can convince Shanks of that, then I think they might be okay. Shanks might still, like, give him a slap on the wrist, or, like, a punch through the wall, because it's like, oh, you know Luffy, that's good, cool, And I could see him, like, grabbing Bartolomeo kind of like this and just like, yeah, because you know Luffy, I'm not going to kill you today, but I want you to understand what the hell you just did. You showed up on my island, you burned down my Jolly Roger. If this was any other day, I would be burying you and your dumbass freaking dipshit crew right now, okay? So... just let that be known. In the future, be a little bit more cautious. Bartolomeo's like, oh, yeah, sir. Yeah, by the way, that straw hat, that was my straw hat. I own the copyright. You better not be selling any of this crap anymore. I'm letting Luffy use it, but for, right, yeah, I can see Shanks kind of doing that, like, threatening. It's like, it's okay, but that's the only island we know about of Shanks is confirmed, okay? But that's not all. So a very common theory right now, a lot of people have been talking about this, is that because we're in the Yonko saga right now, that's what this whole saga is called. We already had the saga with Big Mom in Totland, and now we're at Kaido in Wano right now. Okay. What about Shanks' little arc? Isn't Shanks going to get an arc? There's a few schools of thought on this. One of them is like, well, Big Mom and Kaido and Blackbeard, they're all obviously enemies of the Straw Hat crew, so it makes sense that they have to overcome them at some point. Shanks is not an enemy of the Straw Hat crew. If anything, Shanks wants Luffy to succeed. Also, Kaido and Big Mom and Blackbeard, they're all trying to get their hands on the road poneglyphs to find the One Piece and do all that. Shanks doesn't really seem interested in that. Shanks just really seems like being like an adventurer going out to sea, getting drunk, and just having the good old pirate life. He's not interested in finding Roger's treasure. So there's a school of thought that's like, yeah, Shanks will eventually become relevant to this story, but we're not going to have a moment where it's like the crew's going to directly have to oppose them. There's been thoughts about, like, maybe they're going to have a Davy back fight, maybe, like, as the last challenge of the Grand Line, even after, like, Luffy gets the One Piece and everything, but then they have, like, not a fight to the death, but a fight against the Red Hair crew, just kind of like a bonus level, and he's like, okay, Luffy, you and your crew made it to Laugh Tale, you found Roger's treasure, I always knew you were going to, I knew you would become a great pirate, and maybe they have a fight over the Straw Hat, maybe it's like, tell you what, and, like, Luffy goes to take his hat off and give it back to Shanks, and maybe Shanks is like, tell you what, Luffy, your crew against my crew, just a friendly match, and if you win, you get to keep the hat. How about we do that? It might be just something like that. It might not be something major, where like an entire story arc is focused around Shanks. So that's one school of thought. But the other school of thought is, we need to have a whole story arc focused around Shanks. And a lot of people have focused on Elbaf as being the perfect one. Now, this is the Red Force. Okay, this is the flagship of the Red Hair crew. This is honestly the only ship of the Red Hair crew. That's something else to keep in mind. He's the only Yonko that only has one ship, because Kaido has a whole fleet. Big Mom definitely has a whole fleet. Blackbeard has a fleet. You know, he's got the 10 Titanic captains. Whitebeard had his whole fleet of ships, like more than just the Moby Dick. But yeah, the Red Force, that's all Shanks needs. You know, that's all he needs. The figurehead of the Red Force is definitely indicative of an old school Viking, figurehead. And so I got a bunch of images here. Now, some of these, it's always interesting when you're talking about stuff that happened like with Vikings all those years ago, because there's certain misconceptions with Vikings. Like, I think the most common one with Vikings is like Vikings had horned helmets. You know, we see like cartoons and stuff with that, and that just wasn't true. You know, like an actual Viking helmet looked like this, not like this. So I'm looking at a lot of these figureheads, and I'm doing research to see like, okay, is this just something that was romanticized later on? It didn't even have to be recent. Like, it could have been something like, you know, because Vikings were around, the 11th century, something around there. I mean, they were around, you know, more than just that, but Vinland Saga, so I'm going with 11th century. But maybe something happened in, like, the 17th century, where people were like, oh yeah, Vikings, they had these figureheads. And that might have not have been rooted in fact. But no, it seems to be, like, there it was. There's, like, a lot of, like, tapestries and old artworks that depict Viking vessels that do have the figurehead. Keep in mind, it's really hard to find, like, you know, artifacts like oh, here's an authentic Viking longboat that just survived for 1,000 years and we just found it off the shore of Iceland and perfectly preserved. You know, that kind of stuff doesn't really pop up too often. So yeah, but from what I can gather, yeah, the whole figurehead thing is a thing that the Vikings would actually do on their ships. Not every single one of their ships, but it was a thing that did get used. Sometimes they would use it, they would have the figurehead maybe for just like the flagpole or other things, or like for the mast or something, but it did exist, and there's artifacts that do prove that. Okay, so that kind of ties him back to the whole Viking thing. And also, many people have brought up a connection between Red Hair Shanks and Eric the Red. Pictured here in a really badass like artwork, and pictured here in actual old school artwork. You can see which one looks a lot more impressive, like the roaring, you know, red hair, mighty beard flowing Viking with a battle axe. You know, like that's the Eric the Red that you actually picture. But yeah, okay, it's you know, it looks cool, right? And this is One Piece after all. Half of the giants look like that. Hyrudine, Gungi, you know. So let's go with that, right? Dorian Bragi and all that crap. Okay. So, yeah, now Eric the Red was the person that actually founded Greenland. His son was Leif Erikson. Happy Leif Erikson Day! Hinga-dinga-durgan! But yeah, Eric the Red, a mighty Viking, an adventurer, an explorer, and he found the mighty land of Greenland, home of ice. Also, a lot of beautiful scenery, but mostly ice! Little bit of a thing here. I've noticed some people saying that Oda based Shanks off of Eric the Red. Like, you know, Shanks' design is based off of Eric the Red. I looked high and low for a confirmation on that. I looked through SBS. I went on, like, the wiki. I was like, all right, Eric the Red, anything on Eric the Red? I'm not seeing it. I looked through a few interviews. Then again, One Piece has been around for 20-something years. I might have overlooked something. But from what I can at least gather from, and by the way, and also just all the years I've been reading One Piece and doing this channel and doing all the One Piece related stuff, I have never heard anything official like Oda actually coming out and saying that I designed Red Hair Shanks off of Eric the Red, or I used him as one of the bases. Although Oda did say at one point, somebody asked him in an SBS, or maybe in an interview, I think it was an SBS, like, you know, what One Piece character is just like you, Oda? And Oda said, probably Shanks. Yup. So there's that, but I never really found Oda coming out and said, like, I designed Shanks based off of Eric the Red. He might have, I just couldn't see it anywhere. But even if he didn't directly, I mean, Eric the Red, Red Hair Shanks, just because they both have red hair, not necessarily that was the basis, but still, there's a connection here, plus the whole Viking ship thing. So there's definitely some stuff to go on here. And also, at the end of the day, we don't really know a lot about Elbaf. We don't. The stuff that we know about Elbaf was from a very, very long time ago. Dorian Bragi had not been back to Elbaf in 100 years. So when we met them during Little Guard, and it makes sense they wouldn't bring up Shanks, they haven't been back home in 100 years. Same thing with Oimo and Kashi when they met them at Enies Lobby. They hadn't been back home in 50 years. Shanks is only 39, or he's not that old. So he wasn't even born yet when Oimo and Kashi decided to to head out to go and try to find Dory and Broggy and end up getting captured by the world government. And then the whole thing with Big Mom's backstory, you know, and Mother Caramel and all that stuff, that happened 60-something years ago. So that was 63 years ago, so Shanks wouldn't have been in the picture then. So we honestly, outside of Hyrudine, and Hyrudine even was a member of Buggy's delivery service, so we don't know how long, you know, Hyrudine was part of that. Even before he was part of Buggy's delivery service, because Buggy's, you know, he wasn't a warlord until 2 years ago. Hyrudine might have left Elbaf, you know, decades ago, and went to travel the seas, and then eventually met Buggy and joined up with his little gang, right? And so while Hyrudine was gone and he left with Girth and Goldberg and Road and everybody, Road and Goldberg and everybody, and then Shanks showed up and he's like, you know, hanging out with the giants and palling around with Loki or Odin or, you know, the king of the giants or whatever, and he's like, tell you what, I'll make this island my home base, or I'll give this island my protection or whatever like that. Maybe not even protection, because it's the land of the giants. I mean, a Yonko protection is always nice, but it's the land of the giants, which is already kind of seemingly separated from the world government, and yeah, I think they can definitely defend themselves. Like we see that giants one-on-one can definitely be taken down by devil fruit users. We've seen that. Even the fight between Machweiss and Hyrudine, yeah, Hyrudine did win, but it was a rough fight. It was not an easy fight. But, you know, imagine an entire army of giants. Imagine like an army of 10,000 giants marching toward freaking Marijois. That's horrifying, no matter how you look at it. It's like the freaking rumbling from Attack on Titan, right? So, yeah, like, Yonko protection would be nice, but maybe not necessarily even that far. Maybe just Shanks, like, the motif of, like, the Vikings and the Giants and what they represent, and he made his ship off of that, and he's friends with the Giants, and it's possible that Shanks might be there on Elbaf, might chill out there a lot, and the Straw Hats might meet him when they eventually go to Elbaf, because they have to. I mean, come on now. I mean, Luffy needs to... I mean, Usopp needs to, you know, go to Elbaf and, you know, see the giant land, because that's his part of his dream and everything like that. But I think Luffy also... I mean, come on. It's giant meat, and it's giants everywhere. I mean, Luffy and Usopp would love it. And also, if the Red Hair crew is there, that's also a big thing, because that means Yasopp would be there. So, I mean, we always think about Usopp being reunited with his dad, like, at the end of the story, like when they go find like Laugh Tale and they get the One Piece, then Usopp gets reunited with Yasopp. But they might get reunited before. In fact, I can even kind of see that sort of. Can't you? Like, Wano ends. We start getting into the last saga of One Piece. And they go to Elbaf and they meet everybody at Elbaf and they meet Shanks there. And it's sort of like a passing of the torch, or sort of like, you know, see how far you've come. Like, Luffy gets to see Shanks again, Usopp gets to meet Yasopp again, and they talk about stuff, but then it's like, all right, well, this was nice, but you guys got work to do. It's time for your final adventure on the Grand Line, something like that. I don't know, I could see it either way. Then I could also see it like, no, Luffy should only see Shanks at the very, very end. Like, I can see that logic too, but, in terms of Yonko territories, that's pretty much all you got there. I wish that would be expanded upon a little bit there, especially with Blackbeard, because if anything else, yeah, we're going to get a lot more from Blackbeard coming up, and hopefully a lot more of Shanks too. So Blackbeard will maybe explain like how all of his territories, and hey, maybe even after Wano's over, Kaido and Big Mom might fall, Blackbeard might take over Totland. He might take over Wano. He might take over well, maybe not Wano, but maybe Totland. You know, Blackbeard might sweep up all these territories, because that's kind of what he does. You know, he waits in the shadows, and then when someone drops, he's like, Zaya! So we'll see where that goes. But anyway, thanks you guys for watching. This will be Tekking101 signing out. Barry has a territory too. It's the entire planet. And 62% of the moon, but he's working on the remaining 38. Later, everybody. Did I just do math? Holy crap, I did math! 62 plus 38, that equals 100! Oh my god! I'm learning!